Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome again to GSGS'22 in HEPIA. Somebody is still taking coffee, etc., but I will take 1-2 minutes to summarize the program for today, and then we start. So today we have 2 sessions and 1 keynote in the morning. So we will start with a session on training. Then we will have a coffee break. Then we have a second session dedicated to art, culture, tourism, and architecture. And then we will end the morning with a very nice, interesting, rich keynote by Professor Douglas Stanley. So this is the program for the morning. Then we will get a lunch break. We will have a second keynote from Canada. It will be online. The speaker will not be with us, but he will be online from Montreal, Pascal Meder. And then we have a session on education and training. And finally, like yesterday, we will end the day with a round table. And today the round table will be dedicated to the use of gamifications and serious games in the metaverse. So it's a new trend, and we will try to discuss what we can do in this new universe or world. So this is the program for today, very rich. I hope you will enjoy and attend. To invite Professor Stéphane Malandin to manage the first session on training. Welcome, Stéphane.
Thank you, Yassine. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to welcome you for the... you want... Je reste là? Là? Je peux me mettre là, alors? Là, comme ça? Ok. Là, c'est bien? Okay, sorry. We will see the first session of the day dedicated to training. This is a domain where gaming and serious gaming and gamification were highly adapted. With virtual environment, we can easily help children, students, to improve their skills and capabilities in different contexts. This is what we will see in the 4 next papers. The first speaker will present you a virtual escape game as a part of a master and bachelor degree in finance course. The second paper will present us Dynamilis. This is an application to help children from 5 to 12 to improve their handwriting. The third paper told us about Codititio. Sorry. This is an application designed to train medical students in the codification to the ICD-10. Okay, thank you. Sorry. And finally, the last paper will present a VR simulator training for teenagers with intellectual disabilities. So I'm happy to introduce the first speaker, Ms. Perrine Leroy. She comes from HESSO Lausanne. Do you prefer here? Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today with you. I'm Perrine Leroy. I work at the School of Engineering and Management in Yverdon-les-Bains as a scientific collaborator. And with a team from the University of Applied Science in Western Switzerland, we create a virtual escape game for bachelor's and master's students, and especially in the context of a finance course. So just before I begin, I really like you to know that this is a project that is a work in progress. So I'm happy to present you our work, our game to you, but if it seems like it's incomplete, it's totally normal because we came with the work we have done so far. So the project aims to turn a classic exercise into a serious game. So that's a good point because it's the theme of the conference here. And evaluate the extent to which it's more appreciated and efficient for the students to review an exercise or an exam. More concretely, the project aims to digitize an existing or not exercise in the form of a virtual escape game, which can give the student an idea of the skills they have acquired. So here you can see our creative process. So I really want to remind you that this is a prototype now. So of course, in the second part, we need to develop the methodology because right now we just think about how to say that, like by instinct. So we've done it without real methodology, we need to work on that. In blue, you can see what we have done concretely in our context. The most important thing to keep in mind is that we want to create a game, like a teaching tool that is accessible to teachers without the need of specific knowledge in web development. We are not developers, we are not engineers, so it was really useful for us. It's kind of turnkey, I don't know if I can use this expression in this context, but a turnkey game, a turnkey tool that can be adapted to the course of each teacher, for each level, for each kind of students, like from primary school to high school to master and bachelor's. We would like the teacher to simply imagine the exercise, imagine the scenario, take some picture, and then implement it into the model without to care about the development, the web development process. Honestly, we don't know how to do it exactly. We don't know if it's possible, how it's possible. So the next step for us is to think how to do it concretely, and we are gonna think about that with our own web developer. So see you next year and see if it was possible. Here, this is the test condition, because obviously we created the game like 1 month ago, tested 2 weeks ago with students. It was students from a Master in Innovation and Product and Business Development from the University of Applied Science. And it was teams, 10 teams from 1 to 3 students, because they were kind of free to choose the way they wanted to do, because it can be a game that you do individually or in group. And they've done it at home. We were able to collect some feedback after they test the game. And it's like really simple feedback because we were like a bit in a rush. So the next step is also to investigate the explanation, because like that it's really poor explanation on why they appreciate it, why they didn't appreciate it. So we really need to investigate and make some qualitative interview with the students in order to evaluate the interest or not of this kind of virtual escape game, and in order for us to be more prepared for the next version to implement. So here you have some results. In a general way, it was a well-appreciated game, but as I said, we need to deepen the explanation. And here you have the keyword they use to describe the experience they felt at the moment when they were using the game. But I think I've talked enough, and like we say, a picture is better, well, worth 1,000 words. So here I show you the demo. So at the beginning you have the explanation, the scenario. I know you do not have the time to read all, but just like that you can understand the concept. So the student can download the indication. So it's an accounting exercise. There is clues. So all you see are just pictures that we've taken with our phone. So it's really basic, as you can see. But it's the aim of the project that it's accessible to everyone. And there is like puzzles, enigmas. We really wanted to make a mix between a concrete accounting exercise and some kind of fun puzzles, because we remain in an escape game. So the students have an indication, they have to make a calculation on an accounting basis, and generally it gives the code to open the next door. Here this is a trap because the student cannot leave the trash can picture without answering the question. And as we are in a teaching concept, there is the explanation of the short exercise. Each time there is an exercise or a question. And we had some part of the scenario. Well, it was a really basic scenario, but we really tried to feel the students like they are in an atmosphere of an escape game. So. So this is the final room, with the most complicated exercise, the most complicated question to answer. With the name on the t-shirt, they need to create the question. Yeah, well, to find the question, who is still an accounting question, they make the calculation. So this is words to create. With the words, they can like see the question. Then with the number they get on the indication, they can make the calculation. And the result is the code to pass the last door. Still the small explanation, like for teaching purpose. And they win. Well, we hope they win. There. So I don't know if you like accounting exercise, but I invite you to test by yourself the game during the break. I will be upstairs. And now I'm just here to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. Kevin. Is there someone who want to question?
What was the success rate? Did your players succeed the game? Did you know? Do you know whether they did?
In average, it was 30 minutes.
Okay.
We
so
give them 1 hour maximum, but they need a half of time, so we need to rethink the difficulty of the game.
Okay, but that's good. And just a side note, I see some of the answers are words.
Yeah.
Like, were you very? Was it very specific?
Yeah, it was a challenge for a web developer because he had to do like, you can make a space before, a space after. It can be upper letter, like smaller letter. So yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
a challenge for the web developer. Right?
I see.
Many thanks for your talk. I was wondering, in terms of numbers, you provide a small survey, but you don't say how many people there's, like N was equal to like 10, 100 people testing it?
Well, you mean for the results of the feedback?
Because when you give like, I think it's page 5 or slide 5.
Well, it was about 30 students.
30 students, okay, thank you.
And you have just a percentage, but as I said, we really need to deepen the feedback because we were on a rush to present something here today, but I don't know if we can really make something from this feedback. We really need to conduct some qualitative interview to ask them really why they like it, why they don't like it, what was missing, what can we do to improve the game. So.
And because your game is based on pictures, how many pictures you had to take? Because we did a prototype like this, and we were amazed by the number of pictures we had, like almost 400, and it seems to be there's only 10 when you are playing it.
I'm sorry, I don't really hear you, but we have like 4 pictures of room. Like you see the first door, the locker rooms, and the gym field at the end. And then each object is a picture.
Okay.
So each t-shirt was a picture, the trash was a picture, there were like some balls. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Another question? I have one. If I have good understood, this is only a navigator game. You can play through the navigator only. Do you imagine another platform like AR support?
Well, I cannot say no because it's just the beginning of the project and we didn't think about the next step, the next version. It will be a great first step just to improve this first version with the navigator, and then we think about what we can do better.
Because we can help you if you want.
Okay, I understand the future collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your talk, Perrine. And unfortunately, the second speaker is ill, so we will have a video about Dynamilis.
Hello everyone, my name is Thibaut Selborn and I'm a postdoc at EPFL, and during the last 4 years we developed an app that is called Dynamilis that is meant to be used by children learning how to write. This app can be decomposed in 2 parts, first handwriting analysis and second handwriting remediation with serious games. So the first thing to know is that handwriting difficulties is not something rare. There are 25% of children that have some kind of handwriting difficulties, from light to severe. And when they are severe, I think you all know the medical term, it's called dysgraphia. And now, since handwriting is such a central aspect in every school activities, every research shows a great correlation between handwriting difficulties and failure at school. So that's the reason why it's super important to detect this handwriting difficulty the earliest possible in order to provide the earliest and therefore the most effective remediation. So for the moment, there are different tests that exist in different language and alphabet, and all these tests works the same way. The child goes to a therapy center and is asked to write a predefined text on a blank sheet of papers for 5 minutes. At the end of these 5 minutes, the therapist comes and evaluates this text on different criteria. For example, the space between the words, if the handwriting is tilted, the shakiness, etc., etc. And according to this score, the age and the gender of the child will be diagnosed as with or without handwriting difficulties. This test has several limitations. First, it's totally subjective, so two experts that score the same text only agree in 60% of the times. And in the same way, one expert that scores twice the same text might get different results as well. Second, it's time consuming, so 5 minutes for the child to pass the text and then 15 minutes to evaluate it, so 20 minutes to get the results in total. And last point, on the transition of the technology that we developed, since the test is done on paper, you only have access to the final static information, like a photography of handwriting. And you are therefore losing a lot of information, the dynamic of handwriting, the video. On this dynamic of handwriting, for example, the speed, pressure, acceleration, tilt, contain information that we've shown in our research are way more important than the static aspect. And for the moment, this dynamic of handwriting, since the test is done on paper, is put in the garbage. So that's why we developed the first version of the analysis on a digital tablet. On the digital tablet, for example, an iPad plus the Apple Pencil can extract the XY coordinate of the pen, the pressure between the pen and the tablet, as well as the angle, and that's 240 times per second. So we have a lot of information that we are going to use with machine learning that allow us to have a test that is totally objective, that is way faster. We get the result in 30 seconds instead of 20 minutes. Since it's super fast, we get the result in 30 seconds, we can repeat the test frequently and therefore follow the child's evolution on a weekly basis, something that is hard to be done now. We have access to previously hidden information, all this dynamic of handwriting that is super hard to be measured on paper, and therefore we can extract the child's handwriting profile. So we can know the specific strengths and weaknesses of each child. For example, we have global score, 0 and 100, but also score on the static aspect, the speed, the pressure, the tilt, the dexterity, the shakiness, etc., etc. And what is interesting is that if we ask two children to write the same text, for example, here we have Patrick and Julie that write twice the same text, the two children get the same global score. For example, they are both dysgraphic, but their handwriting profile might be totally different. For example, Patrick has handwriting difficulty because he has problem with the pressure on the tilt, while Julie doesn't have any problem with the pressure, but she more have problem with the tilt on the static, while she has the same global score as Patrick. So it shows two things. First, there is not only one type of handwriting difficulties. It's very, very diverse. And second, it might not be the best idea to propose the same remediation to these two children that have a totally different handwriting profile. So that leads us to the second part of what we are doing at Dynamilis. We co-developed during 2 years with 50 therapists different remediation activities, serious games. On each of these games, target one specific aspect of handwriting. For example, one game to work specifically on the control of the pressure, another one to work specifically on the precision, the tilt, the shakiness, the dexterity of the finger, etc., etc. And these activities are recommended in function of the analysis. So for example, we can give you a different example of one game. For example, this is a game to work on the precision. So we created with therapists some prescriptural paths that you can see here, different levels with prescriptural paths that are becoming harder and harder. The presculptural path is a path that you can find in letters. So if you master this presculptural path, normally you master every shape that you will find in letters. So a lot of paths that you can see here, you can choose one, becoming harder and harder. And in this game, you are controlling the hot balloon with your Apple Pencil, and the closer you are from this blue point, the more points you will get. So it teaches the kid to work on the precision. And if you are getting out of the path, the white path, you are going to lose balloon and lose points. And of course, all these games are adaptable. For example, we can decrease or increase this white path to make the game harder or easier. Another game that we developed with the therapists is one game to work on the control of the pressure. This is particularly interesting because the pressure is one very central aspect in writing. We showed that in our research, but it's almost impossible to train on paper. So for example, in this game, as soon as you are going to put your finger on the screen of the tablet, the submarine will go on the right by itself. On the depth of the submarine is controlled by the pressure applied on the pen. So the more I press, the deeper the submarine will go. The less I press, the upper it will go. And the goal is to constantly adapt the pressure in order to avoid all the obstacles around. And we are adding some bonus in the game at specific strategic location. It's turtle eggs. And as soon as you are going to grab these eggs, you are going to free a baby turtle at the back. So it's very ludic. And it's super important to make this game ludic because children with handwriting difficulty, they hate to write while they like to play, and they are going to learn handwriting while having fun. This is particularly important. Another game targeting the control of the tilt and the small movements that are needed in handwriting. So here you are going to control a copter with the tilt of the pen, like a joystick. And the goal is to get this box, and in this box you have a number of points, this box attached to a rope, and to put the box at a specific location that is at the end of the arrow. And the thing is that like if you have like uncontrolled movement of the tilt, the box is going to balance, and therefore the box is going to hit obstacles, and when the box hits obstacles, it's going to lose points. So here the goal is the child needs to control very smoothly his pressure, small movement, to put the box at the position it needs to be very precisely without adding obstacles. A last example maybe, in this one it's a game that trains when to lift the pen, so it's a therapist that gives us this idea. So a robot writes a word, for example this is the word pomme, and every time that there is a pen lift, the color of the ink automatically changes. And my goal is to write the same word below and have the same color as in the example. And if I have the same color, it means that I left the pen at the right location. For example, here I did 2 mistakes. I leave the pen at wrong location and the color doesn't match with the example above. And therefore, I have a low number of points. So for the moment, we have 10 games that we co-developed with therapists, but the goal is to create more and more. And these games are, of course, recommended in function of the handwriting difficulties of the child. On last slide, we try to create this link between the handwriting analysis and the handwriting remediation. So the child writes, then he has some games that are recommended. For example, I don't know if you see, but with the little star is the games that are recommended for the specific handwriting profile of the child. And there is this ping pong between the remediation and the analysis. Since the analysis lasts only 30 seconds, you can repeat it every 2 weeks, for example, and then the games are learned from your progress in analysis. On this app, Dynamilis is meant to be used by children with handwriting difficulty, but not only, because the handwriting analysis can extract the handwriting profile of the child, whether he has or she has handwriting difficulties or not, and the games will be recommended to work on the specific need of the child if they don't have handwriting difficulties. So thanks a lot for your attention, and if you have any question, feel free to contact me with the email address that you can see in the bottom of the screen. Thanks a lot. Hello everyone, my name is Thibaut Selban, and I'm a postdoc.
Okay, there's no question because we will welcome. Okay, I forget chaque fois. We will welcome Mr. Cortés from University of Bogota for He will present us Codificio. I'm sorry.
Good morning. My presentation is about the Codifico application. Is the team, the university, Leonardo Flores, engineer, School of Engineer, Pontificia Universidad Javeriana, Colombia, Vivian Delgadillo, School of Medicine, Pontificia Universidad Javeriana, San Ignacio Hospital, me, Ariel Cortés, School of Economics and Business, Pontificia Universidad Javeriana. It's very important in multidisciplinary teams for the use of the app Codifico. The most important in health primary care and hospital care is the relationship between the patient and physician. In this relation are essential two aspects. One aspect, first, is the interpretation in semiology. Semiology is the signs and symptoms. And second, it's the correct and specific recording of diagnosis in the patient's clinical history are essential for providers, insurance, tier payers, regulators, health systems, and the other actors in health. Since it allows efficiency and quality of care and having adequate data in the information system, for example, the international codification of disease use of the 18,000 codes. It's very difficult for the medical doctors and physicians use of the codification. App Codifico 2.0 is a mobile application developed under the Android and iOS based on case studies. In the moment used at the 500 cases, teaches the correct way to interpret signs and symptoms and the coding on diagnosis in patients. The solution is built based on gamification, which allows the physician to learn about semiology and diagnostic code through the game. We wrote the different articles or papers and reviews for the application Codifico 1.0 in systematic review of serious games in medical education, quality of evidence and pedagogic strategy, and others a systematic review about serious games for medical education, the role, the effective design. And development and evaluation of a serious game for teaching, international codification version 10, diagnosis coding to medical. It's very quickly the video. Codifico was created in the Unity, yes, in the thank you, in the Unity program. And the sponsors were the Pontificia Universidad Javeriana and the hospital, San Ignacio Hospital in Bogotá, Colombia. It's made up of 3 levels. and three parts is the gaming and the use of the international codification disease team version on one ranking in the serious game. In the gaming, for the three levels. One level is the basic, intermediate, and advanced level. Basic level, time is used to answer the questions and components of medical signs and symptoms and the coding with the respective diagnosis. In this part, in the top, the signs and symptoms, and in the down, the use of the different codes in the international classification disease. The intermediate level, unlike the basic level, the patient has a name and the sign must be chosen based on the code. Finally, is the advanced level with the signs and symptoms, the diagnosis code must be determined. Another part is the use of the international codification for the different teams, the subgroups. And finally is the ranking for the classification, the different people in the game. What are the differentials? It supports the promotion of adequate interpretation of signs and symptoms and diagnosis coding in patient care, which helps to have an impact of semiology interpretation and on the health information system in Latin America. For example, in Colombia, the diagnosis main and secondary diagnosis are not used. In European countries, a patient can have up to 15 diagnoses for an episode. I can be used by any physician or medical student in the world, depending on the language of the application. Codifico, intellectual property registration in Colombia before the National Directorate of the Copyright. And in the moment, the status of development available on Android and iOS. What are we looking for? I call to the international community to improve development and migrate to other languages, Portuguese, French, and other, and validation between the hospitals and ambulatory care. Thank you. My email.
Is there any question?
Thank you very much. Yesterday we had a speech where it was stated out that this playful, this very gamey look of the application wasn't accepted by the professional. And this game looked, in my opinion, as made for children in a way, because it's really this playful, colorful, nice comic style. I kind of like it myself. Is it accepted by doctors and medical professionals in that way?
The focus is the students, medical students, yes? No medical doctors. It's very difficult, the relationship with the medical doctors for the ego. Yeah? It's very difficult, but it's the students, the medicine. No.
There's another question. I have one. Did you evaluate the benefit of this application for the student?
Just in different publications or the different papers evaluate the participation of the students, and it's very beneficial for the teacher learning for the students. It's very very good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your
Thanks. Thank
talk.
you.
Then the last speaker, this is Marin Capellara. You're welcome, coming from Human Tech Institute of Fribourg.
So, hello everyone, my name is Marine. I'm a PhD student in the University of Fribourg and also a scientific collaborator in Human Tech. And I'm working on this project with, in collaboration with HTS in Fribourg also. And the name of this project is iDetect, and the idea is to create a virtual reality simulator training for teenagers with intellectual disabilities. So our target objective are not very young people, but young teenagers between 12 and 18 years old with intellectual disabilities, but it's more about weak to medium disabilities. It's not very, very strong disabilities. And the problem we can see, it's for these young people, it could be difficult to train themselves for several complex daily tasks. For us, it could be simple tasks, but for them, it could be very difficult. And they need to train regularly, and they have to be accompanied with some educators. And sometimes it's very difficult to reproduce the situation. So the idea is to use VR to recreate this situation and to perform some regular exercise. And the idea is also to customize each scenario to the outcomes, learning objectives of the students. And in this project, the main goal is to let the students become autonomous in their daily travels. So they need to be autonomous when they want to go to school on foot or by public transport. So for this, we developed different scenarios using Unity. So the first one was the crossing road and also work on the streets, because they need to develop some basic behavior. So for example, they have to working near the houses, observe all the relevant features, to stop at the crosswalk, to look right and left and right, and wait to the car to stop. And for this kind of exercise, we have two two types. So the one on the picture missing one, yeah, here. So we have the protected crosswalk with traffic lights, but also the unprotected one, and we can tune some parameters. So for example, it could be done by day or night. We can customize the speeds, the vehicle speed, the driver kindness, if they stop or not, how many times they wait, etc. We can also add some obstacles, so you can see the trash can on the road, and the students need to know that he needs to go on the right, so next to the house and not next to the road. And we can also add some pedestrian or some balls to cross the road. The second one is more about public transportation, so they can take a bus or train to go to school or to after-school activities. So here they need to be polite, to sit in the properly in a place. Do not talk to a stranger. I will come back a little bit later about that. And so also they need to get the right buses or the right train to stop at the right stop, etc. So for this scenario, we have bus train. They can do some connections at the train station or for the bus. They can do only the one-way or the round trips. And we can also customize the scenario with some, for example, display failure that you can see in the train station. The bus can also break down. So they need to figure out how to overcome this unforeseen. We can also add ambient noises to disturb them a little bit. And we also add some social interactions and yeah, and also, as I said, we can customize so the scenario, so each student adds their own trip. So the good number they need to take for the bus and the right name of the train station or the bus stops. So here we add some features to customize this scenario. So on the left, you can see we add some use of a smartphone. So if the bus, for example, there is a breakdown, the students can take a smartphone and call his family to say, okay, the bus breakdowns, for example. And we also add some social interactions. So it's in the bus and the train. An avatar can come to talk to the student and say, oh, you look nice, I want to invite you to a restaurant, or come with me to the cinema. And the student has to say no. And the interaction, the avatar could say, oh, please come on. And there are things, if I remember, 3 sentences like this, but the students still to say no and to stay focused on the right bus stop for next. So here I have some videos, example of scenarios. Okay, so this one, I don't know if there is a sound. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Voirie à destination de Vevey, Montreux, Villeneuve, Aigle est supprimé. Un dérangement technique en a la cause.
So and here he needs to call, it's just a family or home call phone. And here it's
Prochain arrêt, Lausanne. Ce train continue en direction de Morges, Genève.
And here they need to wait for the train to stop and then they can go. Sorry for that. So, yeah. And then they can take a bus or stop here, or take another train also. So some specifications about the material. So we use an HTC Vive Pro Vive headset. We develop all the scenario using Unity. We use a fixed room scale because could be very dizzy when they move. So they stay on a chair that can rotate. And we also use eye tracking to help the educator the educator are able to see what the children is seeing, so they can see if they are looking for the cars or just for the ball, for example. For the navigation, we are using the controller, so they just had to point and trigger the button to move. For all the buttons, like for example the bus stop or the traffic lights, they just need to touch the button with the remote. And for the smartphone, it's just the trackpad and then the point and trigger buttons. And for ask the bus to stop, they just need to hands up and the bus will stop. We performed study with 3 institutions in 5 places in western Switzerland. So it was a longitudinal study. Each student performed 3 exercises every 2 weeks from November to May, and we performed some post-test in June, so it was 1 month later. So it was with 18 children, and the more analysis, no, it was using the single case protocol, so it's more based about observations. So about the user test with the children, the analysis is still it's still in progress because we just finished and we need to perform some different statistics, but as we can say for now with just of our observation, 15 students over 18 make the transition to VR from in situ tests, so to see if they are able to transfer their knowledge in real life. And as we can say for now, they are fully autonomous in their travel, so 2 by foot and 2 by public transports. And we also perform some user tests, but in the point of view of the social educator. So the idea is to see if they can install all the material, if they can launch the program and the application and configure all the space. So we have 11 participants, and we perform some SUS and user experience questionnaires. And so you can see the results here. It's quite nice for the first for this proof of concepts, and we have some positive feedback, so they think that it's very, very useful to train children, and it's very intuitive for them. But there is the main I say it's not very negative, but their more fear it's about if there is a problem with the applications or with the headsets, maybe they think they will not be able to overcome these issues. So yeah, it still needs to be very robust for them. And they also propose to have some video tutorial to set up all the materials. So thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Is there any question? Okay.
Merci for the presentation. Did you measure motion sickness when you tested it?
Actually, we do some pre-test, and according to the pre-test, we choose to use the rotate chair, so they are fixed, so they experience less motion sickness. And at the end of each exercise, we ask them, how do you feel? Are you feel dizzy? Are you some stomach pain in the stomach? And it happens, but it was very minimum pain. And most of the time they feel nothing. So, and one of the students also made me feel sick because he was always moving in the bus. And when I was looking at the PC, I was, oh, how can it be sick? But for him, it was nice. So, but most of the time they don't feel motion sickness.
Is there another question?
So you mentioned eye tracking.
Yeah.
It wasn't obvious to me from the demo how. So it was the teacher who would be looking at that data, or yeah, how did that work?
It's just a visual clue for the teacher. So actually, you can see the red points. So in our demo, it's blue points, and it's just see the position.
So you're watching on a screen.
Yeah.
They're looking through the headset. You're watching on a screen, and you have an extra sort of interface layer that they don't see.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Is there another question? We have time. I have one. If you take an account of the result of the test, do you change your scenario, your input, or not? Or do you adapt your game after the test with the child?
Actually, not the game, but yes, we adapt each scenario each week because it depends on the students. But if they are more advanced, we need to add some difficulties. But we have a lot of features, so we just drag and drop for the next time. So, for example, with the bus transportation, at the beginning, they take the first bus coming is the right one, but then we can add some 1 or 2 buses before, so they don't just, okay, it's my bus, but it's not.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I forgot to mention, if you want to come test, there is a demo also.
Thank you very much.